Welcome into another episode of Outside Shots. I'm your host, Saul Bookman, but this is Eddie Johnson's show. So welcome the one, the only Eddie Johnson. What up, DJ?
Trying to make my body a little bigger. You always seem like you dominating me, and I don't like that at all.
Well, hey, EJ, you're trying to look a little bigger. I've been trying to look a little smaller. Just because, listen, man, I had to shed a few pounds, and I had my annual. And listen, man, I feel pretty good. I lost 30 pounds in 2 years.
You look thin. You look swelt.
I appreciate it. Listen, I got a lot of pressure from my co-host, and he was making fun of me, poking at me a little bit.
Co-host. You should be getting a lot of pressure from your wife.
My wife loves me. The whole package, no matter what I look like. So that's
outwardly, yes, she has to do that, because if she said anything negative, she's got to live with you and deal with what she said. So yeah, like my wife, I like compliment her, and she, at times take it like a grain of salt, because it's almost like, oh, you're supposed to say that.
Yeah.
But let somebody outside say that. Oh, you look good. Oh.
So true. Listen, we're gonna go into the little way back machine, EJ. You remember this? Nice draft from 2020? The Suns ended up taking somebody at number 10, and I believe we have some theme music to this draft pick. Do we not? There, Shane?
Check 1 2, check 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2.
PJ Father on the beat.
I don't wanna grow up. I'm a Stix kid. A million different basketball skills that he can play with. From dunks to blocks to long range shots. He's the greatest big man there is. I don't wanna grow up, 'cause maybe if I did, I wouldn't be a Stix kid.
That was the way back machine for you there, EJ. Listen, before you give your comments, I just want to let everybody know that we acknowledge what has happened in 2020. We understand the draft pick, and essentially what the Suns did was this. They completely choked. By not taking the one, the only Tyrese Haliburton, somebody that a lot of Suns fans were really pointing to and really wanting, because they had some point guard needs at that moment, but they bypassed him, and much to the dismay of Suns fans, still to this day, Tyrese Haliburton continues to show why he's such an elite player in this league. Last night against the Knicks was phenomenal. I mean, that game was one of the best games I've seen in a long time. The bounce, and then the choke, and then the Pacers coming back. The only team in NBA history to be down 14 plus points and come back and win with 3 minutes or less left on the clock. Their win percentage possibility was less than 0.001 at that moment, and they found a way to get it done. Unbelievable comeback by the Pacers.
Yeah, can you put that chart back up, that graph back up for a second? All right, so that whole draft really had some second guesses, though, right? So that's what makes it difficult in a draft. So you look at the James Wiseman pick. Mm-hmm. He was second. Like, he was the second pick by Golden State. All right. LaMelo Ball's really turned out to be a tremendous player. Patrick Williams, even though the Bulls paid him, he really hasn't stayed healthy enough to show us anything. What about Isaac Okoro, who can't even get off the bench in Cleveland? He was the 5th pick. Okongwu in Atlanta, he's serviceable, but was he worthy of a number 6? What about Killian Hayes?
Yeah, he's been a
Killian
major
Hayes isn't even in the league anymore. So a lot of mistakes you can say were made in a draft where people really didn't know. So that's why I give the Suns a pass on the Haliburton situation. If you watch Tyrese play in college and you watch that shot, you had the question, would he be able to get that shot off at the NBA level? So, like, it's easy to draft a guy and he turns out to be great in the end of the lottery, right? Then drafted him at the beginning. Our point, Devin Booker, fell to us. If we had had a higher pick, say if we had number 2, would we have drafted Devin?
No.
I doubt it. But Devin is turned out to be better than most of those guys. If he was going in that draft, that he probably should have been drafted number 2, right? So, like, I know we can go back on stuff and nitpick and all of that. And, look, I wasn't evaluating them. I wasn't in a room and seeing Haliburton play. I probably, be honest with you, just seeing how he's heady, seeing how, he was controlling tempo. And if you're in need of a point guard, and then thinking that shot's fixable, which it was when you looked at it, and now you don't mess with it because it goes in for him, even though it looks kind of 1960-ish. Yeah, maybe I would have fought for him and said, look, man, that can be fixed if it has to be, but look at everything else. So, yeah, in that sense, I get it. I get it, man. Draft is not an easy thing, and it's going to be even harder this year for a lot of teams because, it's really pretty even to me. There's a lot of players that can become the best player in this draft coming up. It's not an automatic that Cooper Flagg is going to be the best player. You got Ace Bailey there. You got Harper there. You got guys that probably can take off too. So, yeah, I mean, we can look back on it, but
yeah. I hear you. I hear you. I think, obviously the thing that Suns fans will always point to is the fact that they did have a need at point guard. And so it seemed to make sense that you would slot somebody
right.
to be at the point because it was more of a need than, some random power forward out of Maryland that most people didn't really pay a lot of attention to and didn't really realize that he would even be a top 10. And I think, to kind of counteract your defense of the Suns, nobody had Jalen Smith in their top 30. Nobody had him as a first round pick. Only the Suns did. And for whatever reason, they chose to take the leap on somebody that they thought was going to be, listen, if you take him 10 overall, you're thinking that he's at least going to be a bona fide role player, somebody that can contribute, relatively early in their career. And it took him the better part of a year and a half just to get into some rotation. And then when he started to kind of figure it out a little bit, like I say that with the loosest of context, like I feel like he was getting a little bit more comfortable because he was getting a few more minutes here and there. Then it was time for him to move on to Indiana when they traded him. So yeah. I think the whole thing was just kind of a complete miss because of the fact that they took him so early, and they probably, if they really wanted to, they probably could have found a way to get him later on in the draft instead of where they did at that point. So you still could have wound up getting a Tyrese Haliburton and then fit that need later on. But
yeah, let me say this. You put the graph up one more time, because this is a great conversation. It is something to look forward to in the future, right? So Aaron Nesmith, he was 14. We're going to talk about that, right? We saw what he did last night. Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
21. It's like, it's a lot of mistakes. Desmond Bain at number 30. Jaden McDaniels at number 28. Peyton Pritchard, 26. So this draft was it was a lot of misses. Devin Vassell at number 11. It was a lot of misses. Denny Avia, he's playing like a crazed animal for Portland right now. So I get it. A lot of mistakes were made. And that's what happens when it's no clear cut, Like Anthony Edwards wasn't looked at as a clear-cut star when they drafted him. They knew he had ability, but it was question marks on him. Did he really love the game as much as he should? And all of that stuff coming out. He's the best talent. Wiseman had talent, but hasn't panned out. So tough. That's a tough call, without a doubt. So, that's why you have to, the people you put in place to make those decisions, you have to trust them, right? In that regard, and ownership can be in it, but not totally in it to a high level, because you have to trust the people that you put in place. And always hear this, where in order to have a successful company, you got to put people around you that arguably is smarter than you, and allow them 90% to make the decision. And so
For sure.
I think that's how it should play out.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And that's a great segue into, when you're talking about decision making, having smart people around you to be able to help influence the best decision possible for your organization. Part of that is obviously the head coach. And that's where we'll take this discussion next, as the Phoenix Suns are looking for that next head coach, their third. Well, really, you could say they're fourth in 4 years, after moving on from Monty Williams, and then going to Frank Vogel, and then obviously Bud Budenholzer. Now they've got a list. Allegedly, they have a list of candidates going from Dallas's Sean Sweeney, David Fizdale, who's already on the Suns staff as we speak, New Orleans Pelicans assistant, and former Charlotte head coach James Borrego, and then Cleveland Cavaliers assistants Johnny Bryant and Jordan Ott. Brooklyn Nets assistant Steve Hetzel, Minnesota Timberwolves assistant Micah Nori, Thunder assistant Dave Bliss, and Miami Heat assistant coach Chris Quinn. And then Gambo actually doubled down a little bit and said that he heard that Nori, Sweeney, and then two others, Ott and Quinn, had fantastic interviews, and that Fizdale and Borrego are probably on the outside looking in, with a slim chance at the position, unless the other ones decide they don't want the job in the first place. So that's quite the list. Chris Quinn intrigues me just because, he's been in that Heat culture for a little bit. He's been around. He knows the game, and he's been a good assistant and had his opportunities here and there, amongst the others that obviously we'll hear more about. And it's just very interesting to see how this is all playing out, what's happening in terms of the organization. There's been some crazy stuff going on, and we're not even going to touch that stuff because, a lot of it was based in untruths or at least just speculation, which we're just not even going to get into. So, but when we're talking about the head coaching search for the Suns, it's a unique position because it's not an easy position. And I think one of the selling points, if you're trying to pitch a coach on coming to be with the Suns, is this is one of those things where it's like, listen, we don't need you to save the world, but we need at least a little bit of competency and a plan that we can see on the court as we move forward, no matter how bad or good the record is. And I think that's where fans need to see some improvement, is just, listen, they made the best decisions possible for what they had. You can live with that. But when, as you and I have discussed plenty of times, EJ, it just didn't feel like there was any cohesive thought into how the things during the season should be playing out, from rotations to development to questionable decisions in terms of benching players for multiple games after they just had a string of really good performances. That's where you'll lose the fan base real quick, as if it just seems like whoever's in charge is incompetent and can't make a well thought out decision moving forward. And so I think that's, in addition to the identity of what the Suns are trying to be, whatever that ends up looking like, I think that's the other part of this equation that they're going to have to figure out. And whoever they bring in, will have to really have a good plan about that.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, I'm always pro giving people a chance and not regurgitating coaches. So that's what we've done the last 2 times, right? So since, we relieved Monty Williams of his job, we went out and we got 2 championship coaches, Frank Vogel, Mike Budenholzer, who have had success in the league, who's a well-known name. And you look at that and you say, man, that should really work out. And unfortunately, it did not. I'm not a chef. My wife would tell you I don't cook at all. Spaghetti's my best dish, so I can do that. But somebody can give you a menu and they can give you the same ingredients they use, and their food is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they give it to you, and now you got to go do it. And maybe you put too much of this in. You maybe put too little of this in. Maybe it's the same ingredients, and the spaghetti does not taste as great as the other. All right? So no matter how great and successful our last 2 coaches were, the ingredients that they were presented with did not work. So, yeah, maybe it worked in Milwaukee for Mike Budenholzer. It worked in L.A. for Frank Vogel. But when they tried to mix ingredients here, it did not work. And I keep telling people, this roster last year was a 50-win team. This roster last year was a 50-win team. What happened? They started out 8-1. They were rolling. They were learning how to win games down the stretch, which is good early in the year because everybody's not in 100% shape. So a lot of the games are going to really come down to the last few minutes, and they executed well enough to be able to win. What happened along the way? What happened? I mean, that's the question. And the only people you can look at first is the coach. So it's unfortunate, obviously, that, as a coach, it didn't work for those 2 guys. But something in the way they mixed everything just did not work. And we paid a price. Then we got disgruntled players. Then, injuries happen. And all of a sudden, the season goes south. Mm-hmm. What I love about a young coach, regurgitated, is his ears are going to be open. He's going to be ready to listen. He's not going to be stubborn in his ways. Hopefully, some assistants that's gotten the job have been stubborn. All right. But most of them won't, because a lot of times you'll put seasoned veteran assistant coaches around them, i.e. JJ Redick this year in LA. So that way of thinking, I think, is good. That way of thinking is good. Now, I continually tell people this too, Saul. And I told you this when all these rumors started about Suns are definitely going to trade KD. KD right now is one of the most difficult players to trade. You know why? You're trading 27 points a game. You're trading a guy that makes buckets at the end. It's hard to give up that, right? It's it's hard to give up a 10 for a 7. You know what I mean? Even though the 7 probably is better, but it's hard to give it up. I'm talking about dating, so I mean, if I lost you on that. So
yeah, I was like, what are we talking about?
Talking about dating. So,
okay.
But a young coach, an involved, all-in group of players can all of a sudden turn this around. I'm not saying they don't need any additions or anything like that. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that they don't make the move and go, and KD's not here. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it wasn't all on the players last year. Mike Budenholzer made some mistakes, some stubborn mistakes. And he had a right to be stubborn. He's a championship coach. He's had success. He wanted to do it his way. his way and the ingredients that he tried to use did not work. So, yeah, I like the fact Suns are looking at young coaches. They're looking at assistant coaches, hungry coaches that want to prove themselves, and hopefully they find the right guy.
I hope so too, and I think the model moving forward is definitely, obviously I don't think the retread is the way to go. You've already tried it and it didn't work out, and I think you need somebody with a little bit of a different perspective, maybe a younger coach, somebody that is a little bit more adept to adapting to this this generation of player. And I also think that, listen, I think with a new perspective and kind of a renewed, a refresh of a certain degree, because of the type of coach that might come in, that might be a little younger and skew, he's going to be a little bit more open to ideas that might be able to advance things forward. Now, every coach has their way they want to do things. Don't get me wrong, but I think coaches, the younger coaches, have been around players so much, and they understand how much involvement players would like, and what they like and what they don't like, that they'll be a little bit more adaptable to conforming, or at least manipulating their own system to try and fit a player a little bit better than I think has happened in the past. And that's where I would like to see this go, because I think that this has been, for lack of a better word, not a disaster, because you did make the playoffs last year, even though you got swept. But for the amount of money that has been put into this organization and the limited results that have come from it, then yeah, you could probably say that this is probably one of the biggest disasters, period. So there's a lot to be seen here. I don't know. My other question is, EJ, when they talk about the identity of this franchise, ultimately, when Matt Ishbia was on there in that presser talking about identity, and then Brian Gregory comes in and he talks about alignment so many times. I wonder, okay, whose job is this ultimately to create this identity? Is it the general manager or is it the head coach? Because to your point, if I have a CEO or somebody who wants to open up a restaurant, to use your own analogy, they might not understand the type of DNA that would be best for their chef, or the best ingredients that would be best for the chef. That's up for the chef to come up with that menu. And so in this regard, it would be, is Brian Gregory the one that identifies the type of DNA that they have as an organization, or is that in conjunction with the head coach currently? And then how do these moves get made in terms of the decision making in regards to that? That's the complexity of this. And so, in your estimation, if you were the GM, are you the one that sets the tone in terms of the identity of the team, or do you think that falls on the head coach?
Well, I think Brian Gregory is trying to set the tone right now, right? And a lot of people shouldn't judge on a presser. Like, I'm gonna tell you, I spent most of my young life. I was so uncomfortable talking to a crowd, talking to a group of people. But that doesn't make you impactful. It doesn't make you not smart. It does, that's just a part of you that, hey, you're not a public speaker. Okay. We're not looking for a public speaker to run the basketball team. We're looking for a guy that can open his eyes and see talent, that can put a team together. That's what we're looking for. Like, we're not looking for somebody that can talk their way through stuff and get you fired up about it. We're looking at somebody that can actually get it done, right? And so that's the way I look at it. So I don't judge people by first impression or outside of their job description in regards to getting people fired up about the challenge ahead. I look at the results and based on the decisions that were made. And so for me, I think he's gotten off to a good start in regards to not regurgitating the coaches and going after younger coaches, checking them out, giving them a chance, putting them in front and getting it done. But no, I think the GM is what it's called, general manager, right? A guy that's supposed to be able to put the team together. But I also believe you got some guys in the room with you that aren't yes men, that will give you their honest opinion. And then, if ownership's in there, fine. They're learning along the way as the process goes. And then you come up with a decision. And that's just the way I would do it. Like, because you don't know it all, and so you need to rely on people that you put in place around you to be able to call you on it. And I always get on coaches, man, that they stand away from the team almost the entire game. Like, I don't understand for the life of me what is so impactful about a coach standing up unless his damn back hurts and he's just tired of sitting there. Like, I don't. Like, it's almost like Phil Jackson used to. Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich, they would sit there. But when they stood up, they got your attention. Like, uh-oh. Like, uh-oh. Like, this is important. Boom, 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 boom. Sit down. You get these coaches that just stand. And they're standing away from the very guys they hired to whisper in their ear about, hey, coach, you forgot about such and such. He hasn't been back in the game. Well, such and such, he's a little nicked up, man. He's not, he's made some mistakes. Like, those things. Like, coach, we talked about in the meeting. Hey, we gotta get, we get that guy a run. This is probably the time to do it. Like, okay, if you're standing over there, you as a coach, you have to remember all these things, which takes your attention away from the things that really should be more important to you. That's making sure they're in the right play call, making sure that they're set up defensively, all those things. Right? So you give responsibility to these guys, but yet you're standing away from the team. And to me, I've always pushed back on that. And our greatest coaches that we've seen in this league, Greg Popovich, Phil Jackson, they set their ass down next to their guys and got information. I will say it till I'm blue in the face. It is a pet peeve with me from a player standpoint to just an observant and then a guy that calls the games and analyzing everything. I try to protect coaches. I don't say it much. I try to just get in and get out in that comment. But it is a pet peeve. You trust the people you put around you. And I think it helps you as an individual. And I think that's what our organization has to do from top to bottom. And we'll move forward in a positive light, man. That's just something I just totally believe in, just based on the 7 teams I've been on, the 12 coaches I've had, being in the game for over 40-something years. That's just, to me, that's success. And Eric Spoelstra considered the best coach in the league. You can probably put a period on it now because of the struggles they've had. Sits down. Like, think about it. Sit down. All the tremendous coaches, they don't stand the entire game. Thibodeau, we can talk about that. He stands so much and he's away from his guys. They lost a freaking 14-point lead with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. You're going to tell me it wasn't an assistant coach over there saying, Tom, do this, Tom. But they scared to stand up and go over there to him because now that's undermining the coach. So it's just, it's those types of things, man, that I think has to be improved. And Brian Gregg, we got to give him a shot. We got to give him a chance. He wasn't the quote-unquote guy, right, that was known. But that doesn't mean that he's not the guy, that he can't get it done. And so I think that's how we have to view it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, especially considering like none of us really know how that's going to work out. We have no idea. And I know sometimes you look at the track record and you're like, well, why this guy? What are his credentials to be able to do something like this? But sometimes, listen, it works out. Chuck Daly was not some revered, historical coach before he got to the Pistons, but he got to the Pistons and he made those guys a pretty damn good team and back-to-back championships. And listen, he kind of knows what he was doing, and he ended up coaching the dream team. Like, so you just never know. Greg Popovich, he had a history in the Air Force and stuff like that, and he had coached here and there, but again, relatively an unknown guy before he got to San Antonio, and he turned that thing into a legacy. So I would agree. Everybody deserves a chance. It's just, we want to make sure as a fan base that you feel comfortable and confident that this is the way it should go. And based on the recent history and success of the Suns, there's a lot of doubt in this fan base for good reason. But it is what it is, and they'll move on. We'll move on to the next topic. But first, let's tell you about this. Circle K, folks. That's where it's at. Today, from 4 to 7, you can go to Circle K and save yourself 40 cents off a gallon if you have the Inner Circle app. That is where you need to go. That's where you get yourself all hooked up. So go download the Inner Circle app to get yourself 40 cents off today from 4 to 7. But also, in addition to that, your first 5 fill-ups using that Inner Circle app, you can save 25 cents off per gallon. And Circle K has been just flooding the zone with a whole bunch of fuel deals of late. It seems like 2 or 3 times a month they've got some cool discount on gas that you can take advantage of, in addition to all the beverages and the giveaways and prizes that they'll have on the Inner Circle app that you can sign up for. And you can also sign up for their texting, so that way you can get alerted every single time there's a deal that you can take advantage of. So go to CircleK.com, download the Inner Circle app, and enjoy today. In addition to that, obviously, you can see what I am wearing. I'm wearing the Branded Bills. Obviously, this beautiful hat. It's gorgeous. It's an Arizona hat. That's what I love about Branded Bills. Like, listen, I'm a U of A guy, but for you ASU peeps, sometimes the colors don't go with the fit. And you just want to make sure that, you can at least, as the late John Witherspoon would say, coordinate as best as possible. Yeah. So having a black and white hat with your black shirt, it makes sense. So you can go to Branded Bills, get yourself hooked up with the best gear in the Valley. It's homegrown. It's a Valley owned out of Mesa. And it is one of the best deals you could possibly get. If you go to brandedbills.com today, you could take advantage by using promo code PHNX to save yourself up to 10% off. I'm sorry, that's BBPHNX to save yourself up to 10% on your first order. So take advantage by going to brandedbills.com today. All right, EJ, this is one of the topics that has been largely talked about for the last year and a half, really the last two and a half years. And there's a lot of components to this, and you wanted to bring this up and talk about this. And, I'm down for that. And this Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese discussion, obviously, if you haven't seen over the weekend, those two faced off against each other in the season opener. And Caitlin Clark had a hard foul on Angel Reese. Angel Reese took offense to it. And, essentially we see these things happen all the time, but because it's these two individuals for a variety of different reasons, the discourse has been less than ideal. And it has been so far removed from basketball because of the people that have come out of the woodwork to try and take advantage of this situation. And really, let's talk about it. A lot of it has to do with the racial component of this. It's Caitlin Clark, a white female, and Angel Reese, a black female, going head to head, and those two couldn't be more polar opposites, not only in obviously the racial component, but also in their demeanor, the way they carry themselves, the way they style themselves, the way they go approach the game. It's even their positions on the court, just two different worlds. But that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. But people have taken the opportunity to try and bag mostly on Angel Reese. And it's just been completely out of pocket. And I think people are using this. Listen, I'm not stupid. When I see people on social media and they use words when we're talking about for instance, like immigration, right? And some of the things that are going on in this country, and people getting apprehended, and even people that are completely innocent, they're just here to try and make a good living, um, get apprehended by ICE and stuff like that. You'll see some words that are used in terms of thugs, dirty, like animals, and that's not. Listen, that's code for worse language that they want to use. They just don't want to get called out for it. That's all that is.
Right.
And that same thing happening to Angel Reese, and it's disgusting. It's nasty. Talk ball all you want, but once you start to cross that line and go into a whole nother world and try to make this some bigger thing because of the racial component that you have insecurities about, that's when everything starts to get askew. And you can see that across the board. You can even see it at the local networks, and people going at each other about this discourse. It is just really unsettling. It's not surprising. It isn't, but it's really disappointing, especially considering, these are two really great athletes. Caitlin Clark is a phenomenal basketball player. She's one of the best basketball players in the world. And Angel Reese is a really good player too. But they have been pitted against each other in this vortex of awfulness, and it just is just been really, really, loathsome.
Yeah, it's man, there's so many angles to this. But ultimately, you're correct. It's about race. And Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, they are dots in this conversation. They just happen to be two people that have been put in this spot. But it's not even about them. I'm just laughing at a lot of these so-called historians and these social people that's figured this out and why it should be this way and why it's going on this way. And you have this young white lady, and then you're talking about you got an angry black woman and all this stuff. And both of these individuals have worked their butt off to be in the spot that they're in. This goes all the way back a couple of years ago when Caitlin Clark jumped on the scene. And she was having success like no other. She's throwing in Steph Curry type shots.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, and I understand this, and I've brought this up before. I grew up in an inner city neighborhood. Like, it's things that I saw on TV that I felt like I would never have a chance to play. I didn't think I'd ever have a chance to play hockey. Why? I didn't see anybody look like me. I knew my chances at baseball would be small because I didn't see too many African Americans playing baseball. I knew it. So what did I gravitate to? I gravitated to a sport in basketball that had a lot of people that looked like me. And I felt I had a chance. It's almost like getting on a plane. If you never see a black pilot, how do you ever think you're going to be able to fly a plane? If you look on the TV and you see lawyer shows and you never see a black lawyer, how can I realize and believe that I can be a lawyer? So it's what you see, right? And in this country, in basketball, which is a very popular sport worldwide, the most popular sport worldwide next to soccer, is that you as a white American, you would love to see your kid be in position to be able to make the kind of money that's being paid. I get it. And I understand why you even want it more, because 80% of the people that go to games and that's in the stands, you see it, are white Americans watching African Americans play. All right. So I get it. And so you hope and you long to see somebody that looks like you play at a high level, just like I did growing up, just like a lot of people do. So I get it. And Caitlin Clark is that person. So she's thrust into the middle of it. And so lo and behold, in America, like, we don't have a lot of white dominant basketball players, right? They haven't been able to overtake the African American or now even the international player. I get it, but it's coming. I see it. I see it. And now Cooper Flagg is going to be next in line. He's next in line because the protective device goes up. That's what it is. So the protective device has gone up for Caitlin Clark in a world where they haven't seen this greatness. And it happened with Larry Bird as well. And so now the protective device comes up. And all they're doing is competing. That's it. They're just competing. Angel Reese probably does not like her. But not as a person, probably as a basketball player. She's going at her. And guess what? Caitlin Clark is going right back at her. Let them have their time. We don't need people like getting into the situation and saying, oh, she hates her or this and that on both sides. It does not matter. This is basketball. Okay? Stop, like what people always say to athletes. Why don't you shut up and dribble? Well, why don't you shut up and watch? Shut up and watch. Because it's not politics. It's not race. It's competition. That's what it is. And so we get this from both sides. Tiger Woods was our trophy. In a sport of all whites playing golf, we as an African-American culture rallied to Tiger Woods. Rallied to him. But what did we start to hear? Oh, he's not all the way black. He's Malaysian. Like taking him from us. If Tiger Woods if he was running from a mob and you had 100 African Americans on one side of the street and 100 whites and 100 Asians on different corners, where do you think Tiger Woods is going to run to hide? He's African American. Any amount of blood we used to hear was African American. Okay, but we had to fight to keep him. O.J. Simpson, from a black community, we would like shun him sometimes because it seemed like, he didn't have many black friends, right? Or, and so we shunned him. But in his worst moment, when presumably he did something bad, what did we do as an African-American culture? We rallied to him and protected him. So it goes on both sides. I'm not saying it's one-sided. It's not. So whites are rallying to Caitlin Clark and trying to protect her because she's immersed into a game of predominantly African-American women, and so they want to protect her. She can protect herself because it's basketball. It's not a war. It's not anything like that. It's basketball, and she is damn good at it. Arguably can become. Angel Wilson right now is the best, but she's making a run at her. Let her have her time. It's not fair that people are putting into RG3 and Ryan Clark going back and forth, trying to break it down from a societal aspect of it. Man, stop. It's basketball. Okay? You all are making it about race.
Yeah.
It's just basketball, man. And these two young ladies want to play. They just want to play the game. They don't have to like each other. As many players I played against, I did not like. Okay? I did not like. They didn't like me. Okay? And guess what I am? I'm friends with them. Right now. Friends with them. Because we realized that after the game is over, it was just basketball. Now it's life and it's friendship. And we don't hold grudges. And those two aren't going to hold grudges. You're going to make them hold a grudge because you keep doing it. And it's the people out there that have no idea about sports that's doing it. We need to stop, man. We just need to stop. And just, we got enough issues going on in this country that we don't need to involve a sport that we're supposed to sit back after a hard day's work and go home and watch and enjoy. And now we got to bring this stuff into it. It's just not right.
Listen, I would say this. I think if you're a WNBA fan, you probably have largely not bought into that kind of stuff because you're a fan of the league, you're a fan of the teams, you're a fan of the players. I think what you're seeing is there's this group of people on the outside that see an opportunity to be able to say things that are just not they're not within the spirit of the game is the best way I'll say it. It's just, it's not about the game. And for them, it's a little bit more than that. And they want to try and make a point on this, and they want to use this to their advantage to try and, to prop up a talking point or whatever. It's just, again, like the whole thing overall has been toxic. And I would agree. I would be shocked if you went behind the scenes, listen, Angel Reese, Brian Abdallah is just like, well, if Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark because she's white, well, then that is a problem. That's not the case. Nobody has ever said that. Nobody's ever insinuated that. Nobody's ever heard Angel Reese say anything like that. She played for a white coach. She had white teammates. Like, that's just what it is. So, like, you cannot listen. Sometimes EJ and I will bump heads on the golf course or before a show or even during a show, right? But it's not like there's nothing else to it other than like we're just disagreeing about something.
Just
and that's
disagreeing.
okay on the basketball court. If it's competitive, listen, EJ knows there are certain players sometimes where for whatever reason, and when they hit that court, they turn into a different person. They get more aggressive, or
yes,
because
they're competing.
Yeah, they have an alternate personality, and you're just like, damn, who is this person, right? Like, these things happen through the course of a game, through the course of a season, and with competitive people. That's where this stays. It should not expand past that. It goes all the way back to the whole Angel Reese pointing at the ring thing to Caitlin Clark as she walked by, and that was the
ruined
the trigger.
Saul, it ruined the dream for a lot of people that hope that she was able to take that to a championship a couple of years ago, and Angel Reese beat her, okay? Not individually, her team, LSU, all right? Beat her, and the salt and the wound has not healed from them seeing Angel Reese disrupt the dream that they had for Caitlin Clark. And she is paying a price for it. That's all it is, man. And again, it's the people that are not athletically inclined, that don't understand that competition in sports can turn sideways. You can lose, you win, but they don't understand that because they haven't gone through it. And those are the ones, every white person out there is not hating on Angel Reese. All right. It's just the ones that want to start stuff, that's angry, lost money because they bet on the game, whatever it is, that's what they're doing. My good friend Mike Woodson, who is, like a brother to me, he had to walk away from his job at his alma mater, a school where he left as the all-time leading scorer, one of the most popular basketball players that ever played at Indiana. Okay? He left his pro job to go coach at that school. And the amount of vitriol that he got at his university was atrocious. Death threats, everything. And he walked away. And so we just know how people can turn. And so that's what this is about. It's not Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And I guarantee you, Saul, when Cooper Flag hits the floor in the NBA, it's going to start again. Because he's going to get knocked on his ass. He's going to get challenged. Guys going to get up in his face. They're going to see what he got. As they did Larry Bird. As they've done any other white player that's been in the league. As they've done any player that's been in the league. Players that look like them. It does not matter. It's competition. It is not a race thing. It's just competition. But they're going to view it as, angry black man knocking Cooper Flag down. Stop. I mean, give me a freaking break, man. I mean, Cooper Flag is going to have predominantly all brothers on his team.
Yeah.
And they're going to love him because he's good.
Exactly. That's what that all boils down to. Like, listen, I never cared about what an individual looked like on the court. Can you hoop?
Can you hoop, dude?
Can you help me win this game? Like, I'm not trying to sit on the sideline at this rec center for 2 hours. I'm trying to stay on the court. Can you help me do that? That's all I care about. That's all any of us care about. And so to see where this dialogue has gone has just been, yeah,
Just
it's been
go away,
disappointing.
man. It's just stupid, man.
It really is. It really is. Anyway, listen, it's a talking point, and it's something that we'll continue to monitor because it's obviously it's going to be something that's always going to be there. And but on the other note, the Mercury are 2-0, so cool for them. Good start to the year. Alyssa Thomas and company doing their thing, and then Oklahoma City, Minnesota tonight. The other night, EJ, when we talk about Oklahoma City and Minnesota, I just thought that Oklahoma City just displayed, how good they are, their depth, how methodical they can be, and they just kind of wore down Minnesota. And then when Anthony Edwards kind of, I thought him twisting his ankle, the same ankle he had hurt before, I thought having a week off essentially was going to help him like recover, and then boom, it happens again in game one. Hopefully it's not too serious. But Minnesota just did not look like they were comfortable at all in that game the other night against Oklahoma City. In your estimation, if you had to guess, where do you think this series is going to go and who's going to pull it out?
I think it's still going to go a long way. I do. I think it's 6 games. I think OKC is a very difficult team to beat. So if Minnesota's going to win it, they got to do it in 6. And I think Minnesota is good enough to push this to 7 games. Denver did it, and they were beat up. So Minnesota is a more well-rounded team than Denver. So, look, Chris Finch has got to get, man, I hate to dissect coaches at the highest level. Most obvious thing when it comes, like if I played against Oklahoma City, my whole mindset would be to get open in my range so I don't have to dribble. Or no more than one dribble. Because if you try to dribble multiple times against that defense, they're coming like roaches to food in a dark kitchen. I mean, I'm serious, man. Now, for those that don't understand that you grew up in the city, you would know. You don't turn the lights on. You turn the lights on at night, you see stuff you don't want to see. and that's Oklahoma City. Like, you don't want to put the ball down. And what did Minnesota do? Julius Randle had 5 turnovers. About 4 of them was off him trying to back people down, dribbling the ball, and they just came like crazed animals. Okay, Naz Reid, same thing. Like, that's why they took 51 threes. Because they finally came to the realization every time they put it down, they were in trouble. So they just caught it and shot it. Even when Julius Randle was hot early in the game, he just caught it and shot it. Like, so put yourself in range so you can do that. That's the key. That's the key and to beating this team. But if you want to dribble the ball, you're going to lose. So I was disappointed there at that. So I would like to see them make the adjustment tonight. And I think we'll have a better game.
Ant doesn't look right to me. He hasn't looked right essentially this entire playoff. He just does not look like he's been in a good groove. Do you see the same thing? Like, I feel like he's just a little off. Like, his jumper, hasn't been really consistent. He's struggled to get to the rim. Obviously there's a lot of attention his way, don't get me wrong, but like, it just, something feels different than last year's approach in the playoffs for him versus this year. Are you seeing any of that?
Statistics will show and tell you that come playoff time, your numbers are going to go down because of the urgency of the moment. Now they're only playing each other. They can dissect each other a little bit more clearly. So they're not just playing different games every day like the regular season. So they have a day off to really dissect and look at film. So your numbers are going to go down. And so with Ant, I think he's a very unselfish star. And he's a willing passer. And I think not Jimmy Butler. Okay. All right. And he's not Nikola Jokic in the closeout game 7, when he took one shot. That's just a dig at people that I just like to mess with. He's got to be more aggressive. Is it the ankle? I don't know. I mean, I saw him jump up and try to dunk on somebody in that game, so I don't know if it's the ankle. So I'm not going to give him that excuse. I just think that defense is something else, man. And like it takes you a bit to figure it out because you don't know who's coming at you. Like, back in the day, like you knew a certain guy was all the time from a certain angle on the court was coming to double team a guy. Now they don't care. Two guys will go. And they're so quick that they can scramble out of it. Like a lot of teams can't do that. They'll get picked apart and you'll get layups out of it. But they did that against Jokic, and he wasn't picking them apart. That tells you how good they are.
Yeah.
So, no, I think he's fine. I just think he's got to find his way. He's got to get off to a good start. And like I said, I think Minnesota figure some things out, and I think they'll win some games and make this series interesting. I'd be so shocked if Oklahoma City just run through this series and beats them in 4 or 5 games. That would definitely be a huge disappointment in my eyes looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Like, hopefully he'll turn it on soon because I always like the trash talking Anthony Edwards, and I think that's the best version of Anthony Edwards. So we haven't seen that too much this playoff. So, but listen, man, I do think that this NBA playoffs has been some of the best in recent memory. The second round was a little bit of a dud compared to the first, but I mean, last night's game was fantastic, and so hopefully that'll continue.
It better continue. I know we got to get out of here, but I got to say something about that. It's the best. It's the best playoff game I've ever seen in my life. Last night. I mean, think about it. They're down 14 with 2:40 left, and they won. And then the way they won. And, I mean, Nesmith, 5 threes. And then Haliburton with the last 3. Toe on. He messed up the best movie. Like, just think about, Saul, what we missed out on last night. If his foot was behind that line, and that ball, the way that ball hit the rim and went up and came down, that was the perfect ending to a movie. And then his reaction with the Reggie Miller choke thing, like that, it still sent the New York faithful home because they beat him in overtime to, sad and depressed. But no, if that ball had gone in and game was over, that would have been even worse. Like that, I mean, like I'm sitting there, I'm thinking the game's over. I'm sitting there watching it with my mom. I'm like half in, half out there, 14. It's not. And all of a sudden, Nesmith goes nuts. That's why I say, like, you never give up, and Indiana doesn't. That's the second game they won this playoff run. Game 2 against Cleveland. They did it. Like, it's the second time they've done this. They don't give up. And in the NBA, a 24/7 shot clock always gives you a chance to win. And that's why I always get on the college game. I know you got the college purists that don't want to change nothing and all of that. But what they're missing out on, they think, they're back to the Lord. What about the Leitner shot from Grant Hill throwing the long pass? Man, you got about 10 times where you did something like that over the course of winning the game down the stretch in big games. Okay, yeah, like it happens all the time. No, it doesn't. You call a timeout late, move it up 3/4 court, and you're going to have 100 game great finishes. Like, when do you want to change something? You don't have to change it all. But the shot clock, condense the seconds in the shot clock. They shoot the ball before. It's 35 seconds, correct, Saul?
Mm-hmm. In college
teams shoot the ball in 20 seconds.
It's 30 in college.
30 seconds. They shoot the ball in 18 seconds. That's a wasted 12. Make you a 24-second shot clock. I mean, you're late in the NBA game anyway. You're taking all threes. That's why the NBA game is great, man, because you are not able to hold on to a lead by milking the clock. And that's exactly what we saw last night. So hats off to Indiana, man. I picked Indiana to win this series in 6 games. I think 7. Yeah, 6 games. And so I wasn't shocked by the win.
We appreciate you all for joining us on another episode of Outside Shots. You can follow him at JumpShot8 on Twitter and on Instagram. You can follow me at Saul_Bookman, and you can follow the PHNX Suns show later on this afternoon at PHNX_Suns. Listen, it's been a fun playoff. We'll continue to watch this. We will not have a show next week, Memorial Day week. Memorial Day is on Monday. We usually do our show on Monday. we will be pushing to the next week. So you all have a safe, happy 3-day weekend. Also, shout out to Ashton Goodman. Every year I do this, where her and I were fortunate enough to serve with each other. She passed away in a bombing in Afghanistan when she was serving, and I always want to give her and her family a shout out and just say I'll never forget her. She's a phenomenal individual, and a true special spirit that has gone way too early at the the age of 24 at the time, which is really sad. But she served her country. She did what she needed to do for this country, and I will always thank her. And that's all I have to say about that. So you all have a blessed weekend. Until next time, peace.
Out.